Pastor Ehijoke Okoli is an experienced lawyer and a senior advocate of Nigeria. Incidentally, I'm talking to Pastor Ehijoke Okoli. He is in Victoria Island in Lagos. Because of the importance of this issue, we have to speak with him on Zoom. Pastor Okoli, you are welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yes, Pastor Okoli, I'm going to come purely from point of ignorance because indeed I'm ignorant. The federal government has begun this new policy of asking our citizens to match our national identity number with our mobile telephone numbers. And some of us ordinary Nigerians are asking, does this have any legal implications for the citizen? We can only get that education from you. Are there any legal implications?
Yes. There's so many legal implications because, for starters, in any modern society, you have to deal with the identification in all societies generally. And in this particular digital age, you have to deal with some digitalized, recording of identification. So the legal implications are limitless. In fact, it will get to the point really where you would be necessarily denied a certain benefits that will otherwise inure to you as a person, because this identification is of the same category at, let's say, the passport is also a means of identification. So without your passport, I mean, it's everywhere. You can't open a bank account without a valid form of identification. Police meet you on the road, you're acting suspiciously, said, can you identify yourself? You can bring out a card, you may have stolen it, but it has to be a particular, when you bring an identification that has an official stamp to it, that conveys greater genuineness. And then, of course, but the bigger issue really is where you have to, as it were, warehouse this identification. Warehouse in terms of, I mean, if you're talking about digital age, it's not like physical warehouse as such, yes. But you warehouse it, you have control of those, the identification of so many people. And we know things like identity theft. If your identity is stolen and used, I mean, it's maybe the next thing to having your entire, physical resources stolen. Because we've had issues where maybe people steal some other person's identity and then you can't function. The person has now taken the place of the victim, operate the bank account, do a host of other things. So when we are talking about these, there's a host of legal implications, particularly the person who is authorized. So really, whoever, because of the necessities of modern existence, entities, whether governmental or private or in between, would have to keep this data. So because of the sensitive nature, they're obligated to be extremely careful in protecting this data because this identity in their mass become, are in data form. So that's it. So there's a lot of, spectrum of legal issues involved.
Yeah, Pastor
And
Okoli,
also,
I want to be a little bit,
and
I hope you don't
also
mind.
issues of privacy.
Good. Yeah, I was going to that. I was going to the matter of privacy. Now, if I'm given a passport, I know that I keep it as my property and I'm responsible for its safety. It is private to me. If it gets lost, it's my own carelessness and I take responsibility. But the data being collected is not in my custody. It is in the custody of the mobile telephone organizations. Is it not
That is the registration of your
of this? Yes. And people outside of me can have access to all the information on my national identity card. Besides, the government, our constitution guarantees freedom of speech, freedom of association, and all those freedoms. By this matching, the government can snoop on me, decide to monitor my conversation with you, decide to monitor my conversation with my concubine, decide to monitor my conversation with my daughters and my sons. In other words, I have nothing private again. Is it not a breach of that my constitutional right of privacy and of freedom to say what I want to say without being snooped on?
Really, no freedom is absolute. No freedom is absolute. Even the freedom of your right to your privacy is not total. The concept jurisprudentially in a state of nature without the state, it's dog eat dog, survival of the fittest. But conceptually, human beings evolve a society with a state that you surrender a certain aspect of your right to regulate. You see, by the same token, the state, how about those who plan terrorist attack don't go to CNN or to talk about it? So the state, notionally, is owned not by somebody, but the entire society. So the same way that probably you take your money and in your village association or development as or town union, you pay some dues. And it is now used for everybody's benefit in an ideal situation. That is why we also have the law, which is to a certain degree independent of the state, so that when the state now encroaches far beyond its own remit, then you can come in. You see, for example, let me tell you, like the law of evidence, you are afraid that they would look about your concubine or whether you have this or you have some child somewhere, it's your secret. The point is, the state is not, even when they get that information, even when the state or its agencies get that information, they cannot use it as it pleases them, except as authorized by the law. And of course, the foundation of the law is the Constitution, which actually gives that right of privacy to you in the first place. So in a dispute, the law mediates and decides whether what would at first blush look like an interference with that right is one so or one in the peculiar circumstances of the given case, whether it's to be excused. So if people are committing terrorist activities and they say no, 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 you can't look into, then the society cannot function. The same way, if you're suspected of terrorist activities and you're snooped upon, for example, and then the person snooped upon finds out, or the people doing the snooping find some other totally but significant information, but outside of issues of state security, the court may well intervene to say that that particular piece of evidence will not be admitted. So for all practical purposes, you may know it, but it's of no use for legal relations.
Now, as much as these mobile telephone providers are called Nigerian companies, there is the allegation that they have their database outside of this country. For instance, MTN is said to domicile its data based in South Africa. Airtel, maybe United Arab Emirates, and so on. Is it not wrong for a policy to make information about me available in those areas, to South Africa, to United Arab Emirates, because other authorities can also have access to them?
Okay, now, let me, for starters, it is allegation, so we don't know for sure. If it becomes an issue, it's a bit academic, but let's even take it academically, because for starters, those companies are Nigerian companies. Where and how they do other business would conform with Nigerian law. The Nigerian law. They are regulated. And the people who are regulating them are also in step with them, knowledge-wise, NCC, right? But having said that, you see, this issue of domiciling data in a particular specific geographical location has been rendered redundant by current technologies. Because if you see in the news, people sit down and hack into websites of US government. They will stay somewhere in the old Soviet Union. So it's that concept is just like the bank. Before digital banking, you have to do physical check and then they carry it somewhere. But today, with your smartphone, you operate your account in United Kingdom, in Canada, anywhere in the world. So really, in practical terms, where they put it, whether South Africa or not, it's really immaterial, because all these things are cloud-based. They're impervious to geographical boundaries. The key thing is the internationalization of the protection, that wherever that company calls its headquarters or parent company, that it is put in a straitjacket, that it must be very, very, very careful in securing the data of the customers or the human beings who it is privileged to keep their data. So really, I don't think that's a particular problem. That's my view.
There is a last scenario I want to paint. I've matched my name with my phone number, and my phone is stolen, and that phone is used to commit a crime. To what degree am I liable, and to what degree can I be legally protected?
Well, it's a question of fact. On surface, you look like a suspect, But you can, if you come and explain if you explain to the law enforcement authorities, lawyers would normally tell you that, well, Nemo, that would not happen. You can't give what you don't have. If you apply that concept to this place, I mean, somebody used a phone at the material time when that phone was used to commit a crime, it was not in your custody. It's even immaterial that you did not immediately report to the police. But it's a question of fact as to whether, because again, here we're also talking that we must come to terms with the current technologies. They would track that phone. The service providers, when they try to investigate, if the police really wants to know, they could find out from geolocation that probably that phone, you are in Abuja, but that phone was used in Suleja or even in Lagos. By the time they used it to activate whatever they wanted to do. So all you need maybe explain the alibi that at this material time, I am here. If you check this phone, when this thing was done, the particular offensive use to quit the phone was put. You would locate that it was not from my house, my office, or probably a different town. And I can explain that at that material time, I was somewhere else.
Okay, as we enjoy this legal protection, a non-Nigerian in this rush to get NIN, somebody from Togo, somebody from Ghana, Niger Republic, Chad, in this mad rush to get NIN, presents himself as a Nigerian and gets NIN, and gets a telephone number which is now matched. Is the situation not creating also a condition for illegality?
Oh, of course, no system is perfect. No system is perfect. It does. I mean, we do know, I don't know, of course, I mean, you're very much old enough to know when CBS came and did the 60 minutes during Abacha's time, where the anchor had a spy camera and then got Nigerian passport in record quick time, and he showed it. It was all that. So we do know also that, but I think now it is tighter, presumably. But I do know that in the recent past, it was as easy as going to the supermarket to get to buy a grocery for non-Nigerians to get Nigerian passports. So they use that passport, they commit offense abroad. The first thing the Brits or the police authorities in that place will say, well, they look at that passport, they say this is a Nigerian. So you will have all those things. So I haven't seen a particular person, but I will wager that there are non-Nigerians who have been registered as Nigerians, which they shouldn't be. My concern even in all this is that if non-Nigerians are not supposed to register, with what do you now match the non-Nigerians, and as millions of them living here legally in Nigeria? We haven't been told. So are you telling them that you knock off their phone, they cannot speak to people? So these are even some of the problems, a lot of loopholes that brings out the officialdom in Nigeria. Is not famous for thinking things through. Somebody has a whim, comes up with something, as you go, oh, I didn't think about this. So, for example, why would anybody in this time, for goodness sake, ask people to be going to NIM when we're trying to contain these, refugees of the second wave of COVID that has struck fear into Nigerians? Of course, it was tragically foretold. We were told before by experts, going by the model of the Spanish flu, that the second wave is usually deadlier and whatever, that we should be careful. So you have a dissonance in government that the relevant ministry did not take into consideration the public health implications, or giving such a short time to ask Nigerians to troop in their millions to go there and become super spreaders. So these are the things, we talk about. They rolled out these things. Nobody specified of non-Nigerians. They didn't think about it. Millions of them are here using their phones. What are they going to do? And then you give such a short time, you woke up as if somebody woke up and said, no, you must do this and you must do this. And then I read that, that this thing was supposed to have been, it was announced in February 2020. But we all know second week or so of March, the country was on complete lockdown. And even when it was partially lifted, we were asked to, as much as possible, stay at home. Don't go out except as absolutely necessary. So I don't think this is the time for this. And then I also believe that the technology is there. You can't be asking people, those who already have their NIN, BVN, it's only a question of getting the supercomputers to talk to each other, and then you have all these things seamlessly synchronized. Because if you're going to, anybody who's had his passport, international passport in recent times, like I went to renew, you must have your NIN. So the government has this data in different places. All you need is some little imagination without having to get Nigerians. I'm not an IT expert, but I know enough of the law and the state of the technology that it is not necessary to have Nigerians to endanger themselves and have thousands needlessly contract coronavirus because you giving such a short span of time for Nigerians that if we don't have this thing to be done today, tomorrow, you would think that what is at stake is to suddenly make a Naira the equivalent of $1.
Well, Brother Ehijoke Okoli, I can assure you that a number of us who are raising questions from point of ignorance, who are raising fears that legal rights are being breached by this rush policy, who also fear that we are also being exposed to certain legal exploitations, we may have some reassurance for this conversation. I want to thank you very much for finding the time to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.